The 2022 NFL NFC South Division, which is not one of my favorite divisions, but actually, as I was looking at it, it's a little bit more interesting and amusing than in years past, quite frankly. Ron, I know you have some feelings on this division. What sticks out to you at the first look?
First look, the overview is I I'm shocked that I find this division incredibly fascinating. You got two new second chance coaches of the two best teams in the division, and then you've got two coaches searching for an identity. One on the very hot seat in Carolina, and one struggling to find it, where they fit in things in Atlanta, hoping that there's cracks in New Orleans and some cracks in Tampa Bay that they could take advantage of. But when we do a deeper dive in this division, it's going to be interesting to see where we place these teams.
Yeah, we chatted about this yesterday, just for 1 minute, and I know that you're gonna have an interesting take on Carolina, but we're gonna start with Tampa Bay, which their season win total is 11 and a half. And my outlook on this is the wheels are coming off the bus slowly. Gronk deciding not to return. I think he means it this time. They've lost a few other handful of players. It just doesn't seem like you've got the new coach. It just seems like there's trouble in paradise for some reason. What do you think?
I think the more I look at things, Rob Gronkowski may be the most important loss to any team
Agreed.
in the NFL this year. He's the best tight end that's ever played. He's Brady's security blanket. His touchdown to catch ratio is amazing. His big game ratio is amazing. And his best trait may be blocking, which sounds really strange, but he's like a sixth offensive lineman. He punishes people at the line of scrimmage. Everything that happens in crunch time in the red zone and on third downs, it's not replaceable without. And Gronk is gone, as is OJ Howard is gone too. So they're actually down two tight ends. You've got a defensive-minded head coach coming in, and there's a couple of other factors. I'll let you, pursue on there before I go into that.
What happened with Sue? Where did he end up?
Okay, well, thanks for bringing up Sue as well. They signed Akeem Hicks, Tampa Bay, and presumably that means Sue is in limbo, and he's probably 90-10 not to come back.
Right.
You could say what you want about Ndamukong Suh, but he is the most durable defensive lineman I've seen in the NFL in the last decade or two. He's missed 2 games in his career, both early in his career. He suits up game after game, play after play. He's not a Jadeveon Clowney or any of these other guys. His presence, especially stuffing the run, is going to be sorely missed.
How do you think Hicks is going to help them?
I think he'll give them some pressure. I think his experience is going to help them in terms of the front seven. I think they'll lose something again as far as stuffing the run. And Tampa's been top 2 or 3 in stuffing the run over the past few years. But I like his experience. He's not going to be as durable, perhaps, as Sue, but it's a good pickup. But it's still a net loss for me.
Well, and we have to see how Goodwin, returns, whether he's full strength and the same person he was before. That's key. I mean, he was a key part of their offense when he was in the lineup.
So all we're talking about is negatives so far. They lose the heart and soul of their offense in Gronkowski. Goodwin is unlikely to be 100% in September and may not play in September. They lost 2 offensive linemen, one to free agency because that was when Brady was retired. And so he was going to go on, and one to retirement, a very key retirement player. So all of a sudden, Brady has 2/5 of his offensive line as being brand new. Where's the positive?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm looking for some positives here. I think, Brady, Todd Bowles can help. Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, he's obviously got to be Brady's guy.
Yeah.
So there should not be a huge issue with the new head coach that we would see with another team. Wouldn't you agree?
Brady is on a mission. He wants to prove that, okay, Aaron's was helpful, Bruce Arians, but it's Brady that drives the team and drives the win total. So he is in unbelievable shape. Even right now, we're 2 months we're not even to July 1st. So we're over 2 months from the start of the season, and he's in great shape. Of course, he's going to be 45 if he's not 45 already. So We'll see how that plays out. The schedule is interesting because they have a +8 rest differential. So that's a little bit of an advantage to them. And they have a pretty good early stretch. I'm looking at it. They have 3 home games, games 3, 4, 5. Not easy. Green Bay, Kansas City, and Atlanta.
Wow.
But they're home for 3 games. They are going to Germany in the first ever Germany game. Then they'll have a bye after that. That's later in the season. But they do play a lot of tough quarterbacks this year. They got Mahomes. They got Dak Prescott. They've got Aaron Rodgers all early in the season. It's going to be an interesting transition. So you and I, we have to figure out whether the drop that we think is there is going to be taken advantage of by the rest of the division, because the division isn't super strong and has their own changes. New Orleans has a change.
Who did they finish with?
They finish with not too bad. After Cincinnati, they finish at Arizona. Then they play Carolina and at Atlanta. So the finish isn't bad. And the late bye could rejuvenate Brady. Remember 2 years ago,
You're right.
What were they? They were something like 6-6 in Brady's transition year, first year there. A lot of fatigue. Then they had the bye. That rejuvenated them, and they never lost another game all the way to the Super Bowl. Could be the same thing. They could struggle. I could see them, in the 7-6 range going into the last 4 games of the season.
Yeah, that 11.5 seems a little high. 12 wins seems like a lot to expect from them. I haven't placed a bet on it, but I'm going to look into that. There's definitely 0% chance I could look over in this situation. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree. This is something we didn't talk about. I talked about in another place, but alternate season win totals. They're going to come out probably at the Circa, a couple of offshore places. I wonder what the 12 would look like. Would the 12 look like -150, -160? Then you need 13 to lose that play. I love the whole number alternate lines. If I saw 12, I'd be mighty tempted depending on what the juice was. Just food for thought out there.
Well, you know what? There's nothing more important than staying current. So we're looking it up, and the alternate total is... I breezed by it too fast.
This is breaking news.
12.5. Wow. What would you make that line? Fair line?
12.5.
Yeah.
12.5 I'd probably make in the -250 range.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to place a wager on this. We can't release this video until we've made this bet, because there's a much better number available at the moment.
Okay.
It's -215 at the moment, but by the time this video is out, it's not going to be there anymore.
Yeah, so that places 12 right in the -160 range based on 50 to 60 cent lines. And I love the whole numbers again, because it takes a full game. It takes 13-4 to beat us if we go under. And I'm not saying the competition is fantastic, but I'm saying Tampa has lost a lot of stuff in the offseason, including
they have not shown a need to win more games than they have to. Mm-hmm. They're not a Green Bay that racks up these regular season wins and then flames out. They do it a little differently.
I like that point. Pacing is very important. If you really do a deep dive into the team, I think that point is crucial. They're going to play to be at their strongest when the season counts, in the
Right.
postseason and at the end.
I think they're going to go through their. I think the beginning of the season is an extended preseason for them. Stay healthy and just keep yourself in a position to be there at the end, right?
And this is an example of a team now with a 17-game schedule. You're going to see some teams say, you know something, let's rest a guy right now because it's a long season. Let's see what happens. Let's not rush them back if they're on IR or if they're a little bit banged up. I'm based on what I'm seeing with the schedule and the changes and the personnel changes, I'm looking for a mediocre start and a rejuvenation after the bye week.
Well, I think we're seeing eye to eye there. The New Orleans Saints, one of my favorite teams to bet on. 2 years ago, I made a fortune with them. Last year, they didn't treat me as well. They faced an inordinate amount of problems last year. It just kept piling on, and they kept hanging around some way, somehow. And they didn't have anybody left, in key situations. After the season ended, we lost Peyton. We basically had the feeling that they were going to hit like a bottom at this point, that the people were bailing and there was no optimism and everybody was all over the under. And then all of a sudden they woke up. They started making some additions. I believe they drafted okay, didn't they?
It's always a 5-player draft. I mean, it's terrible the way they don't stockpile. But there's always 2 out of 5 that are ready right away, as opposed to team building for other teams. They get Chris Olave right away. He can start immediately. He's so smooth. I think he's camera ready for the NFL. He's needed at wide receiver. So you're right. They do just enough in the draft to stay in a win now mode. And look what they did after the draft. They signed Tyrann Mathieu. We knew they didn't address safety during the draft, and they take him. And then they had Jarvis Landry, a tremendous possession receiver to go with Chris Olave. They hope Thomas comes back after basically a 2-year absence. They have a couple of other guys there. It's a much stronger wide receiver room. Let me tell you, Chris, New Orleans we always find one team in every divisional preview that perplexes me, and the Saints are the team for me. I can make a case where this isn't going to be a great year for them, defensive-minded coach. They don't have Peyton coaching up Jameis Winston. And I can flip it completely around because they're in win-now mode. They seem to have a better roster. When Jameis Winston or even Taysom Hill was the starting quarterback last year, they went 9-3. They were 9-8 overall. But theoretically, they were actually a better team than we're giving them credit for last year. So,
well, my metrics for them all last year were pretty high, and it was annoying to me. They were able to do a lot of things well and would just fall short in the end results. But they had valid excuses for it. Boy, the starting receiver that just had his problems. Is he going to be suspended? What's going on there?
Oh, with Alvin Kamara, the running back. Yeah, so he's a dual threat running back, the kind that that I like. People that can do more than run. They're a threat out of the backfield, a big threat for Kamara. He catches about five passes a game. I think he's going to get a 6-week suspension, and I think they'll try to appeal it to 4. But it's almost a guarantee that at least the first 4 games he'll be gone, if not 6, in my opinion.
And how did they start off for those first 4?
This is interesting because you got a new coach. You don't have Peyton there. 3 straight divisional games to start the year. The only team in the NFL that does that. It's incredibly important that they start out at least 2-1 in the division. Otherwise, tiebreakers are dead for them. So they got Atlanta, Tampa, Carolina, and the 4th game is a toss-up game against Minnesota. So and it's the start of a 3-week home stretch. So if Kamara misses all 6 games, they may drop one that they shouldn't have. You may look at a 3-3 or 4-2 record, but they have kind of a 5-1 type of feel to it if Sean Payton was there. So I've got a question for you, Chris. Jameis Winston with Dennis Allen as the head coach. How do we feel about that as opposed to Jameis Winston with Sean Payton as the head coach?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, but he doesn't have very many excuses at this point. The offensive line isn't garbage, right?
Very good. They lost their left tackle to free agency, but it's still been a top 5. So maybe it's a top 10 instead. He's
got receivers. He's got running backs. I believe offensively that I'm optimistic. I just am. I just don't think Winston has the same pressures as a few years ago. I believe that at this point he gets a chance to settle in, and he's got the tools. And yeah, he's been mistake prone in the past, but you would think that he's kind of been able to grow out of that by now.
Yeah, so it's going to be fascinating division, first 3 games. Schedule is a little tricky with a -8 rest differential, so the new staff has to adjust to that. But there's a lot of continuity in the staff. Remember, Dennis Allen took over for Sean Payton last year when he had COVID, I think it was, against Tampa and shut them out, if I remember correctly. It was a very low-scoring game. So for whatever reason, New Orleans has played well against Tampa. Each team has an Achilles heel. We know Tampa hasn't played well against the Rams. Well, the Saints have played well against Tampa. If they continue and it's a really veteran defensive team. I mean, they're not going anywhere defensively, and I'm sure Dennis Allen is still going to have his hand in it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, and we're going to revisit this when we talk about the divisional odds, because I think those are going to be interesting. I think the next 2 teams are not a thorn in anybody's side. You indicated that you have some optimism for this Carolina Panthers team that I literally am leaving for dead.
Okay, well, we've been agreeing too much on this show.
Yeah.
Because we have some of the same philosophies. So let's get after it right now. I'm going to make a case for Carolina. And it may seem, wow, you're going to do the impossible, Ron. No, I'm going to try to make a case. -13 turnover ratio may or may not go away because Sam Darnold has bad habits, but it's not going to get worse than -13. So maybe we pick up a little bit there. Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey, when they started at the same time last year, they were 4-1. When they didn't start, the team was 1-11. Chris, you probably know this because of all the work you do in the metrics and so on, but I bet a lot of our listeners don't know this, but Carolina was one of the top 5 defensive teams in the NFL last year.
Well, they were infuriating to me last year because they did cost me money. They, as you just indicated, they did a lot. They did things well, some way, somehow, and I couldn't get off of them easily, and so it was very. It was very annoying to me, quite frankly, because I wanted to get off of them. They cost me all season long, so that's the only thing that scares me about this Carolina team is if McCaffrey stays healthy, which I have zero confidence that he does. I think he's one of these injury-prone guys. But if he stays healthy, I think that they could do some damage, but I don't think that they can do any real damage.
Yeah, it's, they're second in yards allowed. They were 4th in pass yards allowed. This is a vastly underrated defense that only needs its quarterbacks not to contribute to the other team. All they're asking Sam Darnold to do is use McCaffrey when he's healthy, use some decent wide receivers. The offensive line, I wouldn't call it great, but I wouldn't call it deficient either. It's basically Sam Darnold grow up a little and stop throwing off your back. He lifts his feet. That was a problem that I scouted when I was doing the draft at USC. And he throws into uncomfortable situations trying to make too much happen. I don't know if those habits now are so ingrained that he can't be corrected. but they don't have to do that much to me to be 7-10. It's a manageable schedule. It's a fourth place schedule. We talked about New Orleans coaching changes. We talked about Tampa Bay's loss of personnel. Can they steal wins there or against Atlanta? They have an easy early opening schedule. I'm reading it. Cleveland with uncertainty as quarterback, at the New York Giants, Daniel Jones and a new head coach, home to New Orleans, home to Arizona, home to San Francisco. Why can't they go 3-2 or 4-1 to start the season when they're healthy?
That's a good point. But they did face the 30th most difficult schedule of offenses last year. So their defensive numbers were a little skewed.
Okay.
Facing the easier offenses.
Fair.
I'm going to be surprised if they move the needle this coming year. I just don't see McCaffrey staying healthy. The quarterback situation might become interesting. Will we see Matt Corral this season?
Yeah, that would be a disaster. No, I will say that, of course, Carolina is not a public team. You're showing on. We have the scroll 6 under 115. There's a lot of 5.5s out there. So, and 5.5 is a nice number because 6 wins. They could catch teams in trap situations, teams resting players, whatever the case may be. Again, that fourth place schedule. I will give you a couple of concerns I have. I'm not crazy about their defensive coordinator. It's Ben McAdoo. He was out of football, I believe, last year. He was a former coach of the New York Giants, started fast and then fizzled out. I don't know what he brings to the table, and I hope that this kind of no-name defense that plays well with Matt Rule as head coach doesn't drop off just because we have not my favorite defensive coordinator. And the other thing that bothers me, which is just a function of 2022 and today's society, is patience. What if they only start out 1-3 or something like that? It's a win now league. It's a win now society, whether it be college or the NFL. Does the owner just say, goodbye, Matt Rule, we're going to blow this thing up? And then they're in complete disarray the rest of the season.
Well, that's why I wouldn't consider going over. But let's talk about the market read in this situation. As you mentioned, if there's 5.5s out there and Circa is there at a 6 under 15, which is basically a solid 6, that kind of indicates a little bit of support for Carolina over coming from somewhere.
So, I don't play many overs. I played one last year. It was on Carolina. I lost it. Why would I go back to them again? But they were 5-5 until their 7-game losing streak last year. So it's one of the teams I'm considering to play over at 5.5. I would not consider it at 6. Again, when we talk about whole numbers, that means you have to jump all the way to 7 to win that play. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in winning the play at 6, not at 7.
Yeah, and you don't want to go into these season win totals with the attitude of, oh, well, at least I don't lose if it lands on this number.
Yeah.
You want it to be the exact opposite, where I have protection at these numbers, and it's going to be really difficult for me to lose instead of I've got some insurance. You don't want to have that attitude with season win totals.
With overs, I want protection, big time. With unders, I might want the cushion like we talked about before. But it's fascinating. I'm not running to do this. I want to see what happens. I know preseason doesn't matter for a lot of people, but I want to see the rotation. I want to see what Darnold looks like in August. If I make this play, and what I would recommend for people is wait it out. It's not going to jump to 6.5 or anything like that. Carolina is not going to. Now, the one caveat is, what if they get Baker Mayfield or Jimmy Garoppolo, and that falsely kind of raises the bar? Then you got to be quick on the trigger and find somebody that's going to get that play before they move the line, because the perception becomes reality, and we probably see a half-game spike if there's a trade. Would you agree on that one?
If San Francisco's dumb enough to get rid of Garoppolo, Carolina is a potential landing spot, because Darnold would fit as a backup in San Francisco with the type of offense that they run. So that's still, in my eyes, a possibility. But let's go down to the toilet of the division. The Atlanta Falcons. Is anybody optimistic about the Atlanta Falcons this year? Because, they did it with – how the hell they won as many games as they did last year? They did it with smoke and mirrors. They exceeded their tag considerably. I don't know how they did it. It's just incredulous because they really weren't a good team last year. And they've lost Matt Ryan. They're going to switch to Mariota. They lost Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and they lost a key linebacker. But I don't see where there's any room for optimism. This head coach was supposed to get their offense kicked in. He was an offensive-minded coach, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I don't even remember what his story is.
But
to be honest,
it was a disappointment. Whatever he was supposed to do, whether it was offense or defense, it was the exact opposite. So
yeah, I'm
not optimistic about Atlanta. I think you can safely bet season wins under 5.
So the line opened 6.
Right.
That was nice. And 5.5 was plus money for a brief period of time. That was nice as well. I think we talked about it way back about jumping on that because if you think a team's not public and you look at the Pathag, and luckily we did those shows early when we talked about Pathag. This is a team that went 7-10, which means they're not going to play a 4th place schedule with a minus 146 point ratio. The schedule is not any easier. They were 7-2. They won every one of their wins was a 1-score win. So they didn't improve in the red zone with Matt Ryan, and now they're downgrading at quarterback. You mentioned it, free agency. They brought in one player of value, a cornerback. Everything else they lost. This is actually a weaker team than what ended last year.
Yep.
With a Pathag that shows probably closer to 4.5-5 wins. With 18 defensive sacks last year, which is impossible, actually. How do you win in the NFL when you sack a team 1 per game? You know what 31st was in the NFL? 29 sacks. So the team right above them in number of defensive sacks had 11 more than Atlanta. You cannot win that way. They butchered the draft for years. I gave them a C rating in the draft, which actually is the best rating I've given them in the last 5 years. So congratulations, Atlanta. You're improving. You got a wide receiver, but you lost your top 3 wide receivers from last year.
Yeah, and you didn't draft defensively. You went offensively first, and I didn't see the rhyme and reason for that.
So now let's look at weeks 2 through 7. I mean, you can let New Orleans, let's call it a toss-up game at home. They always play tight games. Week 2 at the Rams. Week 3 at the Seahawks, so back-to-back road games. Week 4 hosting Cleveland, then at Tampa, hosting San Francisco, at Cincinnati. Are they any more than 2-4 and probably 1-5 in those 6 games?
No, and here's something that's interesting I just noticed. They faced the 32nd most difficult schedule of offenses, but their defense ranked 31st. And they did nothing to improve their defense.
Yeah, it's been forever in the 65% range in terms of defending the pass. Their run defense is slightly below average. Their scoring in the red zone has been below average. Yeah. Their run attack has been bottom 3 to 5. I'd like to find a gold nugget for you, but I can't really find a gold nugget for you.
I'm just disappointed with you know what? You can't have regret at passing on stuff before you really feel confident and have a full grasp on things. People rush to these season win totals. And as you mentioned, you could have had under 6 on this team. Other teams, you could have had great numbers. I don't have remorse about missing those numbers. Yeah, sure, I'm disappointed, but the mental tax of taking a bad number before I really fully investigated a team is just too overwhelming. I don't want to be in that position. I want all my bets, especially long-term bets that tie up credit or money, to be solid. I don't mind missing a half. If I don't make the bet, I don't make the bet, but I want to make sure that I feel confident in the bet. So just something for people to think about is you can't race to the window and be in a hurry necessarily.
I think if you have an opinion on a team and you're on the fence, but you're leaning, you think you're going to do it, ask yourself two questions. One is, are they a public team in your eyes, or network with others such as Chris and others in terms of, what's the buzz on the team? If they're a public team and you think it's going to go one way or against you, then you might have to act a little quicker. And the other thing is, if you're shopping, and hopefully you have at least 3 outs and a lot more in a lot of states these days, look for outliers. If you see Atlanta start to drift down and there's only 1 or 2 books left at 5.5, and you've already have that inclination, do not wait any longer, because they're all going to leave 5.5. So
exactly,
those are the 2 things I would say. Find out whether your team, whether you can wait, like on a Carolina, for example, if you're looking one way or another. I mean, if you like over for Atlanta, keep waiting.
Yeah. I have painfully failed at keeping up with the season win totals. I just too busy with other stuff. And I've watched a lot of good numbers go by the wayside. So what? I mean, I was busy making money doing, other sports or I'm doing research.
Yeah.
I just got to let them go. And I do blame myself. If I was more on the ball, I could have had some of these numbers, and I should have, with the technique you just mentioned, seeing where the outliers are and grabbing those slow moving books. But you can't do everything. It's 52 weeks. Nobody can do it 52 weeks a year and be perfect. You got to have some mental time off. And I'm guilty. I blew it with season wins in a handful of those situations already. But just full disclosure there.
Well, a recommendation is just kind of set up reminders and stuff like that. Make it a point, like Thursday morning from 9 to 9:30, check season win totals, and then do it again on Monday morning. You only need to do it really twice a week, unless you're studying a team, preparing your grids like I'm doing and stuff like that. But the general person, just set reminders like a couple times a week just to see where the market is going, because everybody's busy, whether it be with other sports or with life or something like that. Just develop a routine and say, okay, how long does it take to actually check season win totals? It's really 15 minutes.
You know what? I love having people like you in my life that have a life outside of this. I'm guilty of spending way too much time, with this industry, with the betting and the other sports. Unfortunately, you're down to 2 sports and they're not even active. So you have that time. I wake up so many mornings with, okay, I got to do this, this, and this. And I never get to the this, and this that I was supposed to do it when I woke up. So in a perfect world, that's perfect. That's perfect logic. And that's the type of stuff I do during NFL season. I'm fully focused on that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm just too lazy to do it in the summertime. And that's okay. You can't do it all.
Yeah.
I want to hit these divisional totals, though. Have you looked at those recently?
That's an area I'm negligent on, other than, obviously when I did my deep study on the Baltimore Ravens, which for us was a show maybe 3-4 weeks ago, but I was studying them all along. I said, they're going to have the 4th place schedule. They're going to be healthy. Just give me what you got there. But I've been guilty of not looking.
What do you think Tampa Bay is, and what do you think the Saints are?
Oh, putting me on the spot. I would say Tampa Bay was probably plus small money.
To win the division?
To win the division.
Okay. And the Saints?
Well, you got Atlanta and Carolina. They're just going to be so non-public that the Saints are probably going to be in the 2-1 range or a little bit more. Maybe that means Tampa's minus money now that I think about it, because Atlanta, Carolina, you could put them as a combo and probably not come up with 10%, which would be 9-1.
We've got Atlanta.
So I take it back.
We've got Atlanta plus 3150. We've got Carolina plus 1650. I thought the price on Tampa Bay was absurd, and I see lots of value on the Saints.
Okay, minus 365. No way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
So the Saints have a lot of variability to me. They can win the division because they play the Saints tough and because of everything we said about Tampa. Or New Orleans could fall themselves and bring up Atlanta and bring up Carolina, not to win the division, but bring up their win total of Atlanta and Carolina if the Saints tank. And remember, they are, all these teams, like we talked about, 3 divisional games right away out of the chute for New Orleans is going to decide a lot of things.
I find that Saints plus 395 looks very inviting to me.
Yeah, so that implies about a 20% chance of winning a division, 1 in 5. You get your money back if they win 1 out of 5.
I think that it's a 1 in 3 shot.
Okay. Well, then your return on investment, if you did this 3 times, is going to be pretty nice.
Right. What do you think it is?
Probably in the 25 to 30% range.
So
but it's still return on investment. If they win 1 out of 4 times, you're going to make 25% return on investment, roughly. A little bit less, let's say 24%. Anytime you have a chance to make a 24% return on investment, why wouldn't you do it, right?
I couldn't agree more. Do we have anything else on this division that we haven't hit?
I think New Orleans is fascinating, and it's going to be a watch for me. New Orleans and Carolina are going to be watches for me. And while I'm not in a hurry, I'm going to watch the lines on Tampa, because I'm just going to find a way to say, how can I, somewhere along the line, whether they're too heavy a favorite week to week or whether I play them under for the season win total, there's something about Tampa that I think there's going to be regression.
And I just want to glance at the week 1 lines.
Okay.
Because I know the Saints, I did release and share Saints -4, and I played the Saints -4. You can still find a 4 at Caesars, but it's as high as 5.5.
That's at Atlanta?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to play devil's advocate on that, because I know it's 2 new coaches, but the same coaches were with their teams last year. That series has been forever a toss-up.
Yeah, I bet it as I knew the line was going to go up, and I think the line will be 6.5 by game day. So it wasn't necessarily a handicap on the Saints. It was a market read for me. Okay,
power rating wise, I should look and see. I should check my notes. You probably have some value on the Saints with power ratings. 19, 26, 7. Yeah, you got a slight, I'd say 1.5 value on power ratings. On just my personal power ratings.
Now, I find this next game very interesting, and that's Cleveland at Carolina. And a lot of people were jumping on the +4 and claiming that this line's going to go down to pick. I think, to me, I feel like Cleveland is a much better team no matter who's behind center. And anything under 3, you got to stay on Cleveland. But you're the Carolina backer. What do you think?
Can I tease a topic? I'm going to tease a topic. We got Ted coming up on another show, and I'm going to ask you guys, does it matter which quarterback is under center week 1 for Cleveland? So we're going to tease that one out and not necessarily answer it now. I wouldn't lay points right now with either team.
Where are we losing? I'm blind. What's the other team here?
The other team is what?
Tampa. Tampa Dallas. That opened at 3. It went down to 1.5, and now it's bounced back up to 2.5, and then it's back down to 2.
All over the place. I think we mentioned this earlier. I took 3 already.
I think that line is going to come farther down. I think Dallas is going to be much more into that game than Tampa Bay. What do you think?
Yeah, they opened the season last year. Kind of interesting. A wild affair with Dak Prescott off an injury. I mean, he hadn't played, and they put up something like 400 or 500 yards on Tampa, if I remember, a shootout game that Tampa won. And
didn't Tampa open against the Rams last year?
Do I have that wrong? I want to say it was Dallas. All right.
You might be right.
Hold on a second. I'm going to check for you. On the spot reporting, they opened against Dallas. They were 8-point favorites. They lost. They won by 2, 31-29.
Okay. Never mind then. All right. Well, that's gonna do it for this division. We have one last division to do, right?
Just one more. And
NFC West, right?
That's it.
Okay. Well, we're going to be back with that whenever we get time. Believe it or not, this is very time consuming to prepare these banners and to actually find the free time where we both have it at the same time, even though you're leading the life of Riley. But anyway, we appreciate everybody joining us. We've got a few more videos that we're taping on various subjects, and we'll pump them out as fast as we can. As long as we're having fun, we hope everybody enjoyed what we have to offer.
See you guys later.